This guy right here is Daoshian Rasak, a leader of the Blades of Atrocity. In the 8th Legion, where flaying people alive is their version of a friendly handshake, he somehow got the nickname Skin Taker. My brother in Chaos, how many people have you flayed? He's on the Night Lord's leaderboard for removing skin. Like, even Fabius Bile says nice cloak. Ave Dominus New back again, Renegades, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's time for another goddamn Night Lords novel. I don't know when the last one came out, but Void Stalker dropped in 2012, and if that's the last one, it's been over a decade since we got a nice long bloodbath from the Lords. So here's my review for The Remnant Blade. Before we get into that, like the video, subscribe to the channel, or else Kurz and his sons will flay your nutsack, and let me tell you, you've never seen manscaping like this before. The Remnant Blade is a book about the Blades of Atrocity, the Night Lord's warband. And this warband is down bad. The Blades were double-crossed after aligning themselves with another warband, the savage yet resourceful Crimson Slaughter. Now they have no choice but to work for their leader, the Gore Lord Thalisicus, for their continued survival. Daoshian, the Skin Taker, is on an almost literal knife edge as he tries to keep his 12 remaining Night Lords alive, including himself, because his warband is not happy and you could just smell the scheming and the mutiny in the air. Also, they're being chased by the Imperial Navy, the Adeptus Sororitas, and Chaos Space Marines. So prepare yourself for a wild ride, because even though the Lords are down, they are not out, and their blades yet thirst. The book is pretty crazy in terms of conflict and bloodshed, and that's compared to the rest of the Chaos Space Marine books I've read. The way the Blades treat mortals makes First Claw look like the Red Cross. Don't get me wrong, the First is as evil as they come, and Talos was putting up Inquisition numbers when it came to the death of innocent people. But Aaron Dembski-Bowden does a good job of writing his characters to fit in with the theme of what their faction is, but at the same time, still subverting expectations. In other words, acting in ways that your typical Night Lord wouldn't act. Mike Vincent, on the other hand, doesn't play at the Blades having any mercy at all, or even know what the word means. There is a lot of double crossing and scheming going on, so the novel keeps you on your toes. Action moves fast, and so does the plot. So if you're like ADD like I am, there's plenty of different settings and battles for you to immerse yourself in. I'm going to start with the characters. There's kind of a lot of characters, so I'm going to start with the MC, of course. I'm going to break down some of the Night Lords and some of the notable characters that I've noticed. Let's start with Daoshian. Daoshian Rasak is the very edgy leader of the Blades of Atrocity. And if you can't tell from his nickname or from the name of his warband, he is not very nice. Daoshian took over the Blades of Atrocity after Veilmaster Ikron got killed by the Drukhari. He, in turn, was betrayed by Gore Lord Thalisicus and forced to work under his yoke. Though Thalisicus is obviously the reason the Blades were decimated, Daoshian is forced to swallow his pride and pretend he doesn't know about it and work for the deceptive bastard. Daoshian was brought up by the Legion, though he never knew any of the legends, Sevatar, the Primarch, etc. He cares deeply about his Blades, and he's not willing to sacrifice them for just any reason at all. I can't tell if it's because he's a decent leader or if they just have so few troops, but those are still good reasons to be conservative with their lives. It's difficult to keep them safe because they're Chaos Space Marine and willing to die themselves if it means killing Imperials, which is a point of contention within the warband. The Skin Taker is an interesting main character because I love to see competent cat herders. So the Skin Taker is not a character that has some type of character arc where there's a moment of epiphany or serendipity that fundamentally changes him. He is just a monster and remains a monster throughout the book. And to be honest, the thought of him accomplishing his goals is horrifying. Vincent introduced almost all of the Blades of Atrocity at one time. Unfortunately, most of them do not stand out very much or have very little screen time. So I'm just going to list them and what their role was. And if they're important, I'll probably say a little bit more. First, we start with Zorian. He's the second in command, and he seems calm compared to everyone else. And in the beginning, his job is to spy on the Crimson Slaughter, but he recognizes the quality of their foes. Crouton is their champion. He uses double lightning claws, and he plays a huge role in the book early on. Sarius is their Melta gunner. He wears a cowl. Sikarga is their heavy gunner. Delgadus is their executioner. He's the tallest, has a spike power spike power pack with a big old power axe hanging from it. Gammath is tall and willowy, loves chain blades. Zealot is their sniper. He's got an augmented eye and this crazy ass relic bolter. He's very still all the time, to the point that he was scaring the other Chaos Space Marines. Angheltris, the skull-helmed knife man. Very excitable, seems to have ADD, one of my favorites. Kevnar, the icon bearer. Aloctro, he exists. And then there's Ki Umshar, the surgeon apothecary. He is self-taught and gets the most dialogue and screen time amongst some of the side characters. Then there's Thalisicus. Thalisicus is a strange villain because he's kind of not really in the book like that. The implication of his actions and things that have happened in the past play a large part in the events of the story. However, he's not there. Currently standing, the Gore Lord is more of an idea than a character for now. What we do know is that Thalisicus is extremely cunning and calculating. He does a hell of a job of keeping his subordinates under his thumb and implementing contingencies to keep them held down. Ibriel. Ibriel is the MVP of the book. He is the Blade of Atrocity's tech priest, whom they recruited before the events of the book. Ibri is complicated because he rides that fine line between a traditional tech priest and new Mechanicus. If the Blade's warband is a well-oiled machine, Ibriel is that said oil. He does so much for them, from being their artificer, pilot, spy, even field combatant. Ibriel is a real-life Swiss Army man. Shoutouts to Daniel Radcliffe. Jathak. Jathak is a chaos sorcerer and leader of the Abysmal Kindred, a warband and one of the allies of the Blades of Atrocity later on. I can't say much about Jathak without giving anything away. I'll just say I love the way the Night Lords treat sorcerers in chaos. Even if they're forced to work with them, they still treat them with much disdain and distrust, as they should. And that being said, Jathak does a great job of being the kind of irrational wizard amongst a band of psychos. Nerissa. Warpsmith Nerissa is probably my favorite character in the book. A member of the Abysmal Kindred, he quickly develops a working relationship with Ibriel, and they accomplish great things together on this. Nerissa is funny, and he brings a much needed levity to the book, but still remains a character that can get shit done, which I love. I'm just going to talk about a few parts of the book I liked and a few parts I didn't like before we wrap it up. So the battles were excellent. In a book that's largely Chaos Space Marine versus Imperium, Mike Vincent did an excellent job of capturing the bedlam, the double crossing, and the violence a conflict like this would entail, and it's just the most satisfying clusterfuck. The Night Lords in the book are true Night Lords. There is nothing nice or redeeming about them. It's cool to cheer for them because they're the main characters, but you know what they're doing doesn't mean anything good for the innocent people around them or for their future victims. In fact, mortals get treated worse than sacrificial lambs, the worst sacrificial lamb you could think of, and you're gonna actually feel bad for them. Sisters of Battle are here, and they are just as batshit crazy as ever. I love this faction, and even if it's not a huge part in the book, their point of view was refreshing after hanging out with the traders for so long. Also, their zealous nature freaked out Dashian, so that's always fun. You know you belong in a straitjacket when one of these motherfuckers is looking at you sideways, like Twisty and Dandy Mott, if you get that reference. The book had really good twists. The Remnant Blade has some of the best twists. Many of these are double crosses, but trying to figure out who is loyal and who is scheming throughout the book is a fun way to stay engaged. And you really get that villain POV where you don't know who to trust, and knowing you might have to put down one of your own despite there not even being that many of you. Let me just talk about a few things I didn't like. So the book introduces too many characters in the beginning. I had to make a list of Night Lords in the beginning just to keep up or know who was who, because you get all 12 right away, plus the villain and their retinue. So that was definitely some Dan Abnett Gaunt's Ghost shit. Slow that shit down. Give me like 2 or 3, maybe even 4 characters at a time. This man just came out and dumped his entire toy chest all over the floor. No human point of view is another flaw in my opinion. One of the things that makes these Space Marine books so great is having some regular humans and getting to compare their experiences with the demigods. One of the major reasons Soul Hunter and its sequels were so amazing is off the strength of Septimus and Octavia being very compelling characters. There are at least 2 mortal side characters in this book that would have made very compelling POVs, but it just didn't happen. This is the spoiler portion of the video, so if you want to come into Remnant Blade fresh, I suggest you stop here, and if you don't care, here we go. We got to see the inside of a black ship, And this is brand new territory for me as a 40k fan, and wow, that shit is badass. And fucked up. And not only do we get an in-depth tour of the Black Ship, but the Sisters of Silence are here, and they're even scarier than the Night Lords. Did you know that a Sisters Commander is called an Oblivion Night Mistress? That sounds badass as fuck. And they beat the Blade's ass. That lady, the Oblivion Knight, beat the Blade's ass the same way Jane Czar was beating the shit out of First Claw. It's very cathartic. The ending was solid. The Night Lords managed to pull off a rare W. Almost all of their enemies got what was coming to them, or will. And the kind of in-game loot these guys unlocked are going to make them a serious problem for the rest of the Long War. Plus, with the twist that happened at the end, you would think that these guys are Alpha Legion. Seriously though, Alfaria is going to sue them for plagiarism. I give The Remnant Blade by Mike Vincent 9 out of 10 cursed lightning claws. Action, dialogue, plot, and especially characters are all enjoyable. I only took points off for the pacing of the characters in the beginning and the lack of human POV, but those just barely held the book back. I would suggest it for any Night Lords fan, any Chaos Space Marine fan, or just any 40k fan in general. Until next time, this is Ave Dominus Noob saying Ave Dominus Nox.